Okay, I think you're on, and you can begin anytime that you like.
Okay, my name is Matt Deaver. My project is called the Manomatic. It's basically, well, let me address the problem first. So the problem a lot of people have with 3D printing is even if they want to be creative, they can't. They don't know how to use 3D printers. 3D printers are really difficult. You have to know about calibration. 3D modeling is really difficult, and even after the thing is printed, you got to do some post-processing to make it look good. So problem solution is, at least initial outset, what I'm doing is the back end for parts assembly, and that takes a bunch of parts that people pick, puts them together automatically, and spits out a file that you can send to a 3D printer. So, like I said, the features are you can attach a piece to any piece. It's basically a person can pick a head, torso, legs, arms, and the system will put it together, and we print it and mail it to them. It also allows for people to rotate parts, scale them if they like. Pieces can be different sizes. When they're put together, they get automatically resized according to the joint size. So you can build anything. You build a human figure, vehicles, buildings, as long as there are parts and the parts are set up appropriately. So pieces consist of models and also joints for the scaling and location automation part. So this is like an arm, really simple arm that I made. This is the joint that connects to whatever you're attaching it. It's like the upper arm, forearm, and these are all models that a person can rotate if they want. And so technically, it's coded in Python. It's basically an ETL system where it loads files, compiles them, sends them out to another file. So like I said, this is just a back-end system. I haven't actually developed a front end yet. Real-time editing is basically impossible given the format for 3D files, for 3D printers, that is. And automation is unlikely given how much post-processing needs to be done and making sure that the file actually is good. Like, 3D printing is temperamental, like I mentioned. So basically, this is just an example of a head, legs, torso, arms. And the system is choose these pieces, choose which slots to put them on, and it puts them together. And it spits this out as a 3D file, like I said. And so another feature that this system has is each piece can consist of a lot of pieces, which can have parents and any number of children. So this is like a spider leg. You can rotate anything, like this one. Like these are all just rotated. If you rotate it in the program and then attach it to something, it does, like, this is just an example I made. So usually when you rotate a piece, if they're independent of each other, this one would get rotated and this one would just stay up somewhere and they would become detached. But the system I developed is smart enough to rotate them all so they don't get detached, and it would screw up the 3D printer if it's detached like that. So let me just show you a brief demonstration of how the system works. Like I said, it's just backend, so all I've got is a Python script, and just run it. It spits out a preview. So this can be used to send to a web page, so you can the customer can preview the file. This is assuming they pick these, obviously, the arms and legs and such. And so you can. This is the 3D program that I use to develop these test models. Like I mentioned, all these fingers are all independent. They're all together. They're all attached to the palm, and each additional portion of the digit is rotatable, as you can see if I do this other test program. Just brought up to the preview. So if you can see that the fingers are all rotated. And so what I'm envisioning is a system where a customer can build a model like, I don't know, a firefighter, policeman, and put something in the hand and then rotate it so the fingers go around it, or just they're free so they can have different positioning. And so that's basically how the system works. It just puts everything together. And everything is interchangeable. This is Snowman. Just a simple snowman. You can, like I said, you can add anything to anything. You can put arms on it if you want, because it has two, like a joint on each side. Or you can put heads on the side if you want. And I didn't get a chance to actually test 3D printing compatibility because last week I was deathly sick. And this is a program that tests the 3D meshes and vertices just to make sure that there's no that but there are no gaps or any overlapping geometry. So this is basically saying that this model is probably good to print. It doesn't think it would come up with any. It would come up with some error messages if it weren't. This is 3D printers software to show where it would, so you can select where to print it and how big it will be. And it also comes up with a file that actually shows the layers and the supports that it comes up with. So this is likely a 3D printable file. I'm definitely gonna test it before the semester's over, but for the time being, that's what it is. For future development, I've been speaking with my sponsor a little bit, and he wants to be able to. There's technology to take a picture and comes up with a 3D model from that, so somebody can, for their kid, they take a picture of their kid, puts it in our system. It'll grab a 3D image, and then they can put that on top of a wizard or anything that they want to make their kid into. And there are also systems that take a 2D drawing, like even a crayon drawing, it'll come up with a 3D model for it. These are just business venture ideas, and that's actually my system. That was only 10 minutes, but.
So tell us, what are some of the biggest challenges you ran into during the course of the project, and then I'd be interested in the lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
How does this, having done this project, help you in your future career? What did you learn from it that transfer?
Challenges, definitely the 3D space issue. How this program works is it has X, Y, and Z axes, and they're not, especially if you use models within models, they're not uniform, because you have the other model that has its own XYZ orientation and then the other one. So difficulty was getting everything to attach seamlessly. Like you can see even here, like this arm is farther in than it should be. That's definitely a difficulty and something I'm still trying to grapple with. Another difficulty was trying to get these segments to work and developing a recursive function to add them all, and after hours of trying to debug it, the simple solution was just to delete it and write it again in 15 minutes, and it worked perfectly after that. And I have a job offer. I'm taking a job in software development, so it's helped me learn a lot more about how to not design things to make them scalable in the future.
So why don't you show us kind of an interactive demo of rotating components or making changes to the SCAD file so that you kind of can see what's required behind the scenes, and then it also probably be beneficial for the group to hear kind of where you're going next as far as integration with kind of that front end, what it would do on the back end, or the types of pieces you'd be storing and how you would combine those, and kind of thoughts around it.
Right. So the rotation it works like this. Basically, this is you create the originating class, the metamatic class. You define pieces. So this, imagine an interface where a person will have a slide, like a drop-down menu from pieces from a category that they pick, and when they select one and they add it, it'll add the piece. And once you have a piece added, it would also pick where to attach it, and that's what these two functions do. They add the piece, and then this adds a piece to another piece, so it orients it properly. And so,
what are the parameters on that add to piece function? It's the add to the fourth object down, or something?
This one's add the fourth object in the fourth piece to the 0th piece on joint 1.
Okay, got it.
And rotation works similarly. You pick the piece to rotate, and these are the XYZ coordinates, or XYZ alterations. And if you have a sub-piece, then it needs to have a path, basically. So which piece, which sub-piece of that, and then which sub-piece, and so on, if it has more. So these are for the digits. You can see these are on the left arm, and then it's piece 0 because it's just the upper arm, and then piece 0 because it's the forearm, and then piece 0 because it's the palm, and then piece 1 for second finger, and then its only child to rotate that one. And so, like I showed briefly before, it just, like you can tell that these two pieces are rotated, whereas the others are not. So that's how the rotation works. Like I said, it's impossible to do real-time updating, so you can't just like have a slider that says rotate this much, which would be useful. And for future development, I'm considering doing like another layer on top that has a different 3D but represents the 3D printing compatible models behind it, that you can rotate things like a slider and then interprets that into the 3D printing. That's future development, though I haven't done it yet. And as for web interface, this is something that somebody developed. They developed a web interface for these 3D models, so you can at least see the preview. Like it renders it at OpenGL for a browser. So that's.
And can you dynamically change the values over here and it's reflected over there?
No, this is actually an STL file. So it's a different format from what I'm using anyway.
So I guess my question is it rendered in JavaScript on the client side, or is it rendered somewhere else on the server side of this?
Well, it's rendered on the client side, but just as an example, you tell this thing to render the actual file, and it takes seconds. If it's this isn't a very complex file. If it's a lot more complex, it takes minutes.
Sure.
So it's not likely that we'll be able to have it'd be like a test, like you can see what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
What are you adding that isn't already done? Because if I Google custom 3D printing or print parts for my own 3D models, there are a bajillion services for this. Yeah. And there are even services now where I can upload a photo of myself, 2D photo, and it'll put it on a wizard's head. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing that's unique?
Well, there's only one service that I know of that lets you scan a photo and put it on like another model's head. That was a Kickstarter done. They don't have a legitimate website up yet because they haven't gotten.
There's one I get an email from like every week.
Interesting. I haven't heard. I've looked for systems like this. I haven't found anything that lets you dynamically add things together, print, and have them printed.
So maybe that's it. You're able to combine components and pieces. Right. I haven't seen that part.
Yeah, that's basically how what the system is. It's just adding components to components. So it's not limited to just figures. Like if a tabletop gamer wants to build a castle for like Dungeons and Dragons or any other tabletop game, they can. Assuming we have the parts, they can take like a tower and just add walls to it, add portcullis, and things like that. So we can print out the segments, and then they can glue them together if they want, or just keep the parts so they can add things to it. That's the main.
Okay, so you're combining the 3D design with the 3D print.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, yeah, most systems now they expect a 3D model to come in from their catalog or from their already built. Rather than saying here's some various parts you can put together and customize.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that's where you're adding value.
Yes. Anything else?
Where do you go from here? I mean, is this a capstone presentation and that's it? Do you expect that you'll create a viable product that will be used? And if so, what else is required to get there? Mm-hmm. What would be the timeline?
It's hard to say what the future has in hold because I'm getting married in May, moving in June, starting a job in Atlanta in June. I have a lot on my mind, but my plans currently are I would like to develop this into a system that I can make a business on, at least as a side business until it works out and I guess I can do it. So in the near future, I do plan on expanding this into having at least a web interface and contracting with some 3D modelers to get some actual pieces instead of just these six-sided cylinders. And trying to set up a business like website models. Are
there sites that have a bunch of components like this, or do you have to design them from scratch yourself?
There are sites that have them. They're generally overpriced because they're like complete models. Nobody has this idea of components and then adding components together. So my plan would be to find some 3D modelers that do it for recreation almost. I mean, or they have a job, they're really good at it, and paying them to develop, like, I need a firefighter, or I need a space soldier.
All right. Other questions? All right, thanks, Matt. All right, so we have a little extra time. I would say let's hold for if you guys want to get set up. But I say let's start at 1:30 in case anyone's jumping on here.
How long do you think it takes to print one? It's like, do you know the actual dimension size? Like, is it
Thanks, James. Appreciate it. Come on, right here. How you doing? Thanks.
A guy at my work, he bought like a little printer kit that he put together. He bought it to work and he printed me a little seahorse. But it wasn't 3D, it was like just 2D picture of it. But like,
Okay, I'm gonna run real quick. I'll be back in
it's
about
interesting
45
to
minutes.
see how it function because it was not used the printer. As it was spewing out, they want to stick to the base, so that when the nozzle was moving, it would move the melted pasta. So his print team is this were totally wrong. I don't think he does. It's his team.
Oh wait, this is for Windows.
He actually made like, you know, like rendering. He printed on. Yeah, so it's pretty close to that version.
Yeah.
And you can get it like restaurants or whatever. So, yeah. And then he, yeah, so he had.
Oh, never mind.
He started,
On Windows and Mac.
he printed a part for someone else because what this someone else was doing was he was printing multiple 3D parts to build like a gun or something. He would print parts but here's the funniest one. This hand 3D printer. So it's not like you do like draw, which obviously one of the examples of that is what a kid would play with. It's like, yeah.
I know there are communities that have models, but in places that.
Right, I don't know what, but I don't.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for doing the running. That's so cool how you have the running thing on the side.
Sorry.
Oh. I'll talk about that.
Yeah, it'll be half an hour, right? 30 minutes, so that we were. Yeah, no, so.
It's interesting.
Oh, dude, we don't have. I don't have a thing to plug in a Mac onto that PC. just realized that. Does anybody have a Mac to HDMI converter? Just realized I don't have one. That's always his lesson. Hey, let's use your computer for the present, and my computer for the song. It's all good in the hood.
Please show that again. Please show that again. Turn the volume. Oh, that was great. It's gonna just send me. It's like, you know, you start. Okay. And in the morning, I was eating like 15 minutes of snack.
So we're in the competition for that one originally. You have some professors connection. What was smart key for that? So what's the link with the
You should have it print upside down.
If we go out in the hallway real fast, shoes don't win, right?
Yeah, because the whole world is at supports, right? You understand it? Legs. Yeah. Technology, it'll be a few years until it's like. Yeah, if you have time, go to the Microsoft store and see or 3D printer.
We got to figure it out.
They don't have a training set next to it.
you're in the library.
That's worth to do, but I've seen one at home. There was one that's expensive. Yeah. Well, the one I saw was like this big and had a
What? Turn. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to get this ready for the music. How do we get the sound going through these speakers?
Like that.
Sweet.
Professor, how's it going? Not yet. Right. We need to survive for the next half an hour.
I'm not sure what you're doing, but
We appreciate it though.
Pretty explicit.
Man, gotta dodge a couple cables.
Just realized see it. No. I never did some reading.
Uh-oh, this is not a good thing.
I dreamed that he came over and wanted to be my friend, and then for a little while, he came to my house, and then after a while, I started showing some stuff, got up and stole my parents' Easter candy and left.
So how do you interpret that?
I don't know.
I had a dream last night that we were putting on an AIS activity, and it was a movie. And so I went to the movie, and I missed some capstone presentations. So, wow, I'm going to make sure I don't miss a capstone presentation. I'll make sure I don't steal your parents' Easter candy either.
Yeah, but if they say we thought you forgot us.
Okay, go ahead.
I've been having a lot of dreams lately.
What did you say?
Yeah, good. I like figuring out. There's a couple. I don't know if it's something
No,
else.
it's not.
It's not working.
It's not working.
What do you have an issue with?
It's on.
I just want to design something awesome and work, but they don't make it awesome.
No, works.
Uh,
Good. We're good.
All right, you guys can go anytime.
Let's turn them off for now, so we don't burn the partial.
Well, let's turn off the app.
Dead. Boom.
You guys get the lights off?
Not right now, but we will at one point. That's okay. All right, let's do this. You're not recording me.
It's definitely
Saw me tucking my shirt. What is up, people? It's over here on the side. Oh. Let's do that.
I don't know if I've ever seen
Cool.
you in a suit, Isaac.
You haven't?
You look great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Don't go too far. All right, are we good to go? Cool. Hi, my name is Isaac Lomley, and this is Tyler Howling, and today we'll be presenting to you what we call the Light Show application. We're first going to give you a rundown of the, here, can you pop out to the thing? First, we're going to give you, the other way. You need to see our timeline. Just beat it over. Yeah, okay, first we're going to give you the goal of what we want this app to do. We're going to explain a little bit about what limitless LEDs are. We're going to give you the lessons that we learned, give you a little bit of the capabilities, a quick demo, and then where we're going in the future. So the problem that we're addressing is a simple problem that I myself have encountered and have wished somebody would fix, and so I was excited for this capstone to just fix it myself. That is that when you're in a musical band, a lot of times it's really hard to get the correct stage lighting. It's hard to find somebody who knows how to do it properly, or maybe you have to pay somebody. Or maybe if you're trying to be on the road and have your own light show along with you, that's a very difficult thing. So what we've done is made an Android application that allows users to pre-program a light show that they can then fire with the click of a button and have play alongside of their musical presentation.
Okay, so first of all, the hardware that we decided to use to integrate with our app is called Limitless LED. The lights are Wi-Fi and they connect to a bridge. I can't show you. It's plugged into the wall right now, but it's a bridge that transforms Wi-Fi signals into the wireless that it needs to communicate. So our application, which is on Android devices, will send a UDP command to the bridge, which will then broadcast it to all the lights. And it can be up to 4 groups. Each group can have over 100 light bulbs each. Sweet. Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Well, this little thing doesn't work the way I thought it did. Wait, it's funny.
Keep going forward.
Cool. All right, so some of the lessons that we learned some of the basics of Android programming a lot better. We learned how to correctly pass around objects between activities using the parsable interface. We learned how to correctly send UDP commands from an Android device to the network that it is currently on. We also learned how to utilize what's called fragments. So fragments are a quick way of allowing an activity to have multiple, it expands an activity's ability to do functionality. It'd be a little bit of a longer conversation than we have time here to go deeper into what fragments are, but they make your app move in more snappy manner, and they help you to have better functionality. We also learned how to use GitHub a little bit better, and Bitbucket along with the Git repositories, and keeping things all synced. And we learned how to use the API that was presented to us by this company with the lights that we purchased. And
so tell me about this refresh with Wireshark.
oh yeah, so basically that goes from what I just said. Learning how to figure out the API, they didn't give us an API. So we went on and used Wireshark to figure out what commands we were sending to the lights and what commands were working and what things weren't working. So we had to actually look into our packets and say, okay, we just tried to send this hex code over to these lights. What actually got sent? And we actually found that we were doing it improperly. And so after trial and error, we figured out what things did what and what didn't.
And do you want to give us a quick overview of kind of your decision process with the lights and what you were going to consider originally and then where you ended up? And
oh yeah, Tyler can give you a good explanation of that.
Sure. We originally looked at an Arduino board. After looking into it further, we decided that Wi-Fi would definitely work better for what we were doing with this project. So yeah, it just seemed like it would work better with the different groups. There'd be less wires, hopefully. I mean, with the Wi-Fi, I mean, you have the lights. It can connect right to the lights. You don't have to bring a little board with you to hook it up to every time. So that's why we decided to go with Wi-Fi.
And so basically, yeah, the company that make these lights have wireless functionality already in them. So basically, we didn't want to have to make our own hardware. It was way better to just go to a third party and say, you've already got done what we were trying to do. So.
But if you were going to mass produce these, would that change your decision?
Either we would need to. So this company is based out of Australia. There's other companies that go through the same manufacturer that make these lights. We would definitely need to go visit them and say, hey, this is what we're looking for. We need bigger lights for the stages, and we need them to not be as finicky as. So these lights are a little bit finicky, so we have to say we need you to have higher quality. We want to be a partner with you though, and continue to buy these from you, and just kind of help them up their game so we can have a good game ourselves.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so currently our application, we can create a timeline. Now each song has its own timeline that's full of events, kind of like here. And each event is going to have an act, whether it's to change it red or to make it brighter, make it darker. And it's also sent a time, the time that you want it to fire off. So 30 seconds in the song. And so that's how we organize the application. That you'll fire these different apps at different times throughout the song, and thereby get the light show that you wish for. And the timeline, you can have a lot of different timelines in your playlist. Bands, they have lots of different songs, so they'll be able to organize it that way.
Yeah. So this is kind of some of the functionality, a little wire, of the app. So this is the settings screen. Basically, we don't have the help messages initially on, but once you click up on it, it has pop-up messages for people who are new to the app to kind of help them understand the correct way to utilize things. We're going to move forward for the sake of time. So this is the controls screen for users. Here's where somebody could manually just, instead of saving a timeline and then firing it by the click of a button, they can actually control the lights just by hitting these buttons. So if they want to turn the light red, they hit the red. If they want to turn the light off, they hit turn off. It gives somebody just that like hands-on right away. Let's make this light do things right here and now functionality. This is the main screen that people can use. Basically, the person will create a new sequence, and that would bust them over to a screen that looks somewhat like this screen, where they could then record the things that they're pressing and give those actions a time. So it'd say they hit the red button, a dialog box will pop up and say, how many milliseconds do you want us to wait before we fire for the light to turn red? And they'll put in a number, click OK, and it'll save that. And then underneath the light, we didn't get a screenshot with one, but right here, it'll list the events that are tied to a certain light. And the way you select different lights is by clicking on them on the pictures up top. So we try to keep it simple. Just click on a light, click new sequence, click save, timeline, and saving the timeline will then put a button on the play screen. And once they click that, then it'll start the whole thing. So have a little light show.
So real quick, do each of these lights have like a little MAC address or something to uniquely identify them so that you know that you put the right light bulb in the right spot on the stage as it communicates, or how do you know which light is which position on the stage?
So you sync it when you hook up the light. You have to sync up the light to the bridge, and that will determine which group it's in. And then it doesn't matter. You can unplug it. You can plug it in days later, and it'll still remember which group it's in.
All right, and you can reconfigure.
And you can reconfigure.
Yeah. Cool. Can we hit the lights? Can we hit those for us? Yeah. It's over there to play.
So I was really hoping you'd, bring the whole band.
That would have been cool.
Okay. Oh wait, I need to put in the VGA, right?
Is it? No, the sound is.
Oh, is it separate?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, let's do it then. All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, no sound.
Oh, no sound.
Yeah, you do have to click VGA.
Let's redo this, guys.
Yeah. Something we would like to add later on is when you click play to have it play the music as well in the app, but currently we haven't done that. We have to do it separately.
Okay, you ready?
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Sweet. Can you hit the lights?
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's something that we just kind of put together this morning. The closer it will be on is the more time you put into making sure that it's on with the music.
Yeah.
So that all just goes with putting time and effort into the actual timeline. So.
Did you say HDMI?
No, you switch it to
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So now we're going to tell you a little bit about our future plans with this application.
All right. So yeah, like I said, we want to be able to fire both of them, the song and the light show at the same time with the click of the button. That's one thing we're going to add. We're also going to support up to 4 groups. Currently, just 1 group. You can have a bunch of lights, but the more groups you have, the better. And we would like it to be able to respond to mic input. We think that'd be cool if it responded to the frequency that it receives. So if you had your phone by a guitar or something and they're doing a solo, it would take the input and the light. One group would respond depending on what's being played. So that's currently our future expectations and future plans for this. Are there any questions about our app?
So is that a timing issue in the future? You're saying that they'll pick up on the music to see the timing? Because I see that as the biggest problem is the timing on that.
Right.
Yeah.
The music, because music's going to vary quite a bit.
So, and it will, but if you're doing a live presentation, If the band can't figure out that they're off from the music, they need to be able to say, oh, we're like not playing with the lights, let's make sure we slow down or speed up. So they'll be able to catch on
So
and
they're
pick up on
timing
that.
their thing according to the lights.
Mhm.
According to their.
Right.
It'd be nice if they had just somebody, a little button that they could push to hit the next, step to get in sync.
We could definitely, yeah, that's a great
You know,
idea. I like that. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that with the app currently. You could just divide up the song into different timelines, and make sure, yeah, and then have one universal timeline. Yeah.
How many lumens do these output, and what do you realistically need on a stage?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure how many lumens you need for a stage presentation.
Obviously, it depends on the size of the stage and the distance of the light to the performers and other factors.
Correct.
So, it seems like this was cool in this kind of intimate environment and a little bit bigger environment, though you probably wouldn't see the coloring.
Correct. And we're not really trying to go for, our target market with this application isn't huge performances on big stages with huge crowds. We want more of to target the niche market of a local band that wants to do a show for maybe like 50 people to 100 people. And so with that, you wouldn't really need too much more. You'd need a few more of these lights, but it would definitely help their show if they just had a few of these on the stage.
So what else do you need to implement in the app to get a minimum viable product where people start using it?
Basically, a lot of the things that Tyler just had said.
Just a couple more of those tweaks, and it should be. We're pretty close to launch. It'll just take a little bit more features. And
yeah. So we want to be able to have it to where you have a button so the phone will just listen to the sound frequencies that it's taking in and be able to know, okay, at this frequency, this is what we have tied to red, what we've tied to green. And so if maybe someone's doing like a screaming guitar solo, you can have the lights play alongside of them.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't launch before having that feature there?
We could.
As a beta, possibly, but not a full launch until it's ready.
Other questions?
Are there any security issues with these? Like, could I send a signal to that light right now?
The security is through the Wi-Fi. You have to be on the same Wi-Fi, so if your Wi-Fi has a password, then people can't touch it. But yeah, if you're on an unsecure network, then yeah, pretty much somebody could tweak with your.
So is that connecting to that router?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's as secure as your Wi-Fi.
Is there any other questions?
So did you guys go ahead and publish your app in the Android store?
Not yet. Not currently. Still in the testing phases.
So when will you test it with the band?
With the band?
When will you test it with the band?
Probably once we have some more of the functionality that we had talked about earlier done, then we'll probably test it with the band. Probably in a month. Not for another month.
All right, thank you very much. Perfect.
Sweet. That was fun.
All right, looks like we've got another little break here.
You're intimidating. Yeah. I was like intimidated. I was like, oh.
Couldn't you guys like partner with the manufacturers of the Wi-Fi thing to get a stronger light bulb?
That's what we want to do, yeah. I don't think we'd go through the company we bought this company though. They're based in Australia and they were like horrible customer service. So we'll probably go with a different company. We might contact the manufacturer of the lights directly. Just be like, hey. No, that's what you were saying.
Yeah, like
instead of going through the other companies, yeah. Yeah. Good job. just to give you like a better idea of how this part works. See, and then nothing happens right here. But once you start recording, it's like one sure test say how many seconds. So after 10,000, light to yellow red. So we'll save that. This isn't programmed in yet.
Yeah.
But if you click on another light, so,
Nice. I like the, I was wondering how you're going to, record that based on, so many potential events or.
yeah, we hope we can as simple as possible.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's good.
let me show you what I showed. So you can select different lights here. And let's say on that light, on light 2, we want to make it. So nothing's going to happen until we start recording. So now that we're on recording, let's say we want to turn the light green. And so it asks, or it says, okay, how many milliseconds do you want us to wait before we actually turn the light green? Say 2,000 milliseconds. And then after we turn green, we want it to turn red after 4,000 milliseconds. And you save it, and now these are the events that light 2 has.
Supposedly they last around 40 years.
You look over, there's not a time frame.
We'll see.
Is that like based on being on?
No.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just
Since they're covering so much of
and then they just in real time switch the lights
Yeah.
so that they're not having to do the tedious, okay, how many milliseconds here or there, especially if they're predefined functions, so that you just, start playing ding, ding,
It's
ding.
not like
Look professional.
It's good.
Yeah.
More on that, whereas if they could just.
Transferring
it
it
on
on
the
the
server
server.
you, then they don't have to think so much about
Yeah.
how many milliseconds.
And another thing that we wanted to do, and I
Or, yeah,
probably
it's on the server.
timeline.
You look just like that.
Yes.
That's the way I remember your dad.
Start recording and then.
Now the engineer was looking like this.
Yeah, that's right, that's exactly right. Thanks for coming today. Thanks.
That's a really good idea. I like that idea. Instead of once it press record, then it's like recording on the
Yeah, as long as you're listening to the song. Yeah, good. Have a seat anyway.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet. So we got another few minutes, we'll let others join us too.
So you have a MacBook, right?
You guys come over and I did now you know I have to take off.
Oh, like
hardware.
You look like that.
How are we tracking?
I'll see your name.
How are we tracking what? Do we need to like write down what presentations we attend for you?
I'll send out a survey and just ask you for which ones you attended.
Okay, so we'll
That
keep
survey
track.
will be coming later.
Okay, sounds good. And you need
Just, I mean, you can tell us. I asked you.
I'm gonna hold on to the screen.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna stick around and watch.
Take our survey.
There's nobody. You're here. Okay, I'll see you later, man.
Thank you.
I'm outside.
Later in the day.
No problem.
Is there anything else you need?
I'll send out an email. There's
Yeah,
project board, and then there's going to be kind of groups of evaluations, and then, how
On our side,
you perceive the value of times they took you as far as performance class. Just take a look at
And
the
how many times?
website. I'll send you one of those lengthy ones to the.
So on the survey side, it's like.
Thanks, I'm super awesome. How much
Better
work
to
did
do
you
this
do?
than the other one. Which one? They both sort of fun. So which one would you?
It's super fun.
It's one of those things.
So you're set. Let's know the start.
It's just like,
There's another one on there, kind of a site that has, different objects, but this one's using their Arduino. Basically, analyze you send them to change the color of light bulb based on, the light something like that. And less sophisticated with this.
User register.
that's actually,
a lot of, programming and visual indicators like who broke the build or something. So we have a little light bulb up there, it's green, and then, as soon as it's broken, it starts flashing, red, something's going on, and you can totally customize it to your specific needs or.
I wish I had this. I have to add an ASAP.
Alright, sounds good.
So, on our end, we calculate the time, the total time to do the income test, but not every time. So what we need to do is fix that clock. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The problem is sometimes the conversion, sometimes it doesn't. So what we did was, we have it go coordinate files until it converges. Then once it converges, we save it.
Oh, this is just one giant light show?
Once it should convert.
Red Jenny light show?
So when we program this stuff, we're doing database and try to convert again. We can't.
How are we getting?
You can definitely have a pedal that's
So
like.
we're trying to find out why it's.
Is your site live? Can we go to it right now?
I'm not sure exactly. So we're gonna look at.
Yeah.
We're gonna add something else to the profile, so when you log in, it'll show off your login intent. Basically, then it'll show you.
Yeah, the survey stuff.
But, it took me 40 times.
Hey, here you are, let's
To
press
get
this.
in.
Which.
Full control.
So, yeah, it's embarrassing that it doesn't work very well. In my opinion, the product, I see this as a product, we're an alpha test. We're.
So what was
It's
the main?
way more complicated
It's actually in the survey.
than what it sounds like. Because you got parts
I can take this
and
up. You know where.
and that's just for that one.
Oh,
You got
File located on the site, which ones are you looking at? 330.
Is this a word?
Yeah, you're in the lab.
To the left.
Yeah.
Very easy to like it.
Open source, which is nice.
That was just going off the email.
And then we learned how to use
Yeah,
it.
you send another one out saying stuff like that. They've been updated, no, just last, maybe like.
You don't know.
Yeah.
When you go to our website, it's like pictures and carousels through.
All right, Dave, we're, we're maybe a minute out.
You know how we do it?
I think we should get started. Oh, okay.
Kind of like everything.
Why don't we start in 2 minutes? Right on time. Great.
It was.
I like that sound a lot better when you're.
That's how I would be like, yeah.
It's
one of those.
Lots of fun.
That's why it's fun making out like light show. How much I could just like track that.
Knowing kind of value. Yeah, perfect.
Survey experiment.
So how was this for you? This is hard to do.
This is my most enjoyable class because I see the versus the projects I see. Those shit about environment doing. Overall, it's great.
Doesn't look like you can do it.
I just meant like.
Yeah, we were going to have logic.
I have a tendency to worry about
test that,
big projects,
but
especially when they're
it's based on experience.
I look around, just friends here.
Well, we were going to do it.
fine.
Yeah, that's right.
So originally my idea was building like a very functional.
Well, he's seen it happen a dozen times.
They were back to experiment. The functions that were too requirement. Two-factor authentication that could like scale for time, cadence, communication. So you could say,
Okay. So my project was to build a site for Senator Valentine, who's here with us today. He's my client and also my father. My mother may be coming in as well. She insisted on being here, so we're gonna get the whole kind of family there. So the original problem was that Senator Valentine represents Senate District 14 without really having a good way to really know what's going on like with his constituency. He gets about 1,000 emails a day. He gets calls and contacts and notes on the floor of the Senate and all kinds of different messages. And there's really no way to parse that information. I don't really think that any senator in the state of Utah really does really well at understanding exactly what their clients want. They kind of make their best guesses based on the information they have. So it's kind of a problem, and I was hoping to use technology to try and solve this problem. But there was another obstacle I had to deal with first, and that was a lack of infrastructure to kind of support this. John Valentine's current website is fairly antiquated. You can visit it if you wish. It's johnvalentine.com. I'll show it to you in a moment. It's all custom code. It was just developed by his PR individual, Rick Cantrell, and yeah, so it's hard to modify. You can't really update it at all without actually talking to the developer and saying, hey, load this onto the site. It's not mobile optimized at all, and I'm pretty sure it was last updated in 2008. So my solution is to redevelop johnvalentine.com from the ground up using a CRM. Joomla, which is like WordPress or other major tools out there, which would make it easy to modify and make it, supported across all kinds of different browsers. You could purchase different templates as styles change or update, just all kinds of different things. And that should be a good solution. And so as far as like the data portion of it, the actual survey would be a custom module that would actually plug into Joomla. And by doing it this way, I could actually plug that into any site. So if anybody wanted to, acquire this from me, once it's fully developed, I would be able to just provide them, a zip file, and they would be able to just load it onto their Joomla site. Also, it had to be better than just surveys. It couldn't just be Qualtrics. It had to be something that was extremely low maintenance, that basically require almost no technical savvy to use and implement, and hopefully would just basically run itself once it was set up properly. And so in order to accomplish this, I basically developed a kind of a architecture database design following these kinds of parameters. The idea would be that the bills would automatically come down from the legislative website, le.utah.gov, and that information would basically be constant, and then issues would automatically be assigned to bills. And so the idea would be that the users wouldn't have to figure out which bills go to which issues, but that data would just kind of be combined together. And from that, you could develop different questions and answers based on what the issues were. So for example, you might have a bill on immigration. The issue would be immigration. And by having the issue be immigration, you might create survey questions such as, how do you think we should respond to illegal immigrants currently living in the States? And then people would be able to respond accordingly, and you have a couple of various answers for that, and all that information would just kind of automatically be populated. So whenever a bill would come in discussing immigration, it would automatically be assigned to that issue, and those questions would automatically come up whenever somebody tried to survey for that bill.
So in order to, so yeah, now
Could you go back to your last slide real quick before you transition? So the issues are auto-assigned based on something in the bill? Is it like the title or the main content of the bill? When you
Yeah.
say auto-assigned, I assume it's still a manual process for...
No, it's not a manual process.
Okay.
There's actually, I have some
Oh,
secret
there's-
sauce here, so.
Okay, and there's some structure, and then the admin assigned are simply, questions that are pre-populated according to whatever secret sauce you have also.
Well, no, the questions
Taxonomy.
would be assigned by the admin to the issue.
Yeah, but for instance, we might have a pre-populated list of, say, 10 or 15 questions for immigration or something like
Right. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, the hope is that once I get into the research phase and everything, I'll actually have some pre-populated data, so they won't just be developing every single line item because
that. Okay.
it'd just be too much information.
And so there'll be an interface for the admin to add those questions.
Oh yeah, that already exists.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Actually, I'm glad you reminded me of that because I always forget to show this particular file. This one. Yeah. So make it bigger. Oh, it's small and tiny and ugly.
Does the command plus work here?
I'm not sure. Yes, it does. I confess, I've only had a Mac for about a year. So this actually is provided for free from the legislative website. They actually have an FTP server with a lot of information on it. I was only able to parse through just kind of a handful of files and kind of understand them. But this, what it does is it actually takes it gives kind of a 1 or 2 word sentence about what the bill is about, and then you have the title, and then the senator who sponsored the bill, and then the encoding, which is pretty much standard across everything in the Senate. And so this information, this will automatically be generated into the bills. I worked on this week and actually got these so that they will aggregate down into one instance of agriculture, and if agriculture already exists in the list, it would be, it wouldn't be regenerated. But yeah, this will actually allow all those issues and bills to be tied together. So going to the actual site, so this is the old site, just kind of as a preview. That gray box never goes away, and there's absolutely no administrative interface at all. This is basically what you get. I hope to change it to this. So this is currently running online, although I will admit that in classic technology presentation fashion, not everything works the way it was supposed to last night because I just loaded it onto a server and, well, it is what it is. But, just kind of going through very quickly, it's got kind of a more appealing look. It's mobile optimized so that you can actually look at it on a mobile device. That's all, that just comes off for free off of Joomla and the template I purchased. Yeah, photo carousels and different things that my client wanted. We also have a blog, which is something that was important to him simply because he sends out notifications to his constituency every week. And so this would be a way to kind of populate that data. And also there's admin accounts, social media links, etc. The survey component was working but didn't quite survive the file transfer. I do know what's wrong though, and hopefully I'll be able to fix it by either today or tomorrow, but definitely before it finally gets submitted to you. So the front page will look something like this, and this page is actually still kind of failing because of some modifications I made in the file. But basically what would happen is you would have bill issues here, you would click take survey, and questions would repopulate, and then you would be able to submit your opinion. And that would be stored in a database table tied to a user account. On the back end, you have this is the issues. Right now, there's actually kind of a change in my design as I was building it because I discovered that file that I showed you earlier. And so originally the plan was to actually be able to create issues. I'm probably going to restrict the user from being able to do that, simply because those issues are automatically being assigned to the list. Although I'm hoping in the future to actually be able to merge issues. So, if this one talks about air and this one talks about air quality, they would be able to combine them together into one field. Anyway, so I have already implemented, assuming it works, the ability to actually load the text file into the system. And yeah, my system timed out. Build, upload file. And it will take a while, and currently there's no real user notification that it's finished. But yeah, this is all the data pre-populated from that file. So obviously this description field, there's nothing for it, so I can't do anything with it. But these are all the bills. These are all the bill issues, and they're tied to bills that have just been populated into the database. Going on, I've also got the questions, and answers you can add and create, update, and delete answers and questions. There's definitely some tweaking that still needs to be done. There's not really enough appearance there for how that should notifying that that's an answer versus a question. That will need to be fixed, and some different things. But that's kind of the overall idea of what project's all about. So the hope is that during the month of June, before I go out to Texas, this button, okay. So hope is once I go out to Texas, I will be able to actually finish some of these final pieces of the project and refine it and actually get it uploaded and move it from johnvalentinebeta.com to johnvalentine.com. I guess I'll just run it from here. But some of those things that I hope to actually release in that iteration are obviously, make sure everything's on the server. Embedded videos was something that my clients specifically specified. Different admin accounts, something for an intern to access, something for like a super user like me to access versus something that he could access. I'm not quite satisfied with some of the visual appeals of pieces of the site. Some of the images are a little bit large, especially in like the mobile optimization states. So I'll have to go back through and tweak that. I'll also want to be able to close surveys once they have been voted on. I learned that there's no real set time that a bill is going to be voted on. It's basically just whenever it comes up on the calendar. And so that will have to be a manual process, or if I could find some indicator somewhere online that that's happening, I may be able to scrape it from somewhere. But yeah, I won't be able to create like a timer. It'll just have to be is it voted on, yes or no. Yeah, emerging issues and some different admin stuff, and I'd also like to improve it so that you don't have to actually load the file, but it just pulls it from the FTP server. And I haven't really looked into that, but I'm optimistic. And so this project, has been a lot of fun to work on. Yeah, so I've learned a lot of things in this project. I learned that when developing, you can't develop an application without being able to test output. PHP, because of the whole MVC, Joomla garbage, it was kind of all buried in together, and it took me a long time to find a debugger that actually worked. I finally had to switch to Firefox instead of Chrome to use a Firefox plugin called, I think it's called FirePHP. That worked a lot better than Chrome PHP, just in case you're ever working, PHP. But yeah, I wasn't able to really. Once I was able to actually debug properly, it really accelerated my progress. I didn't realize how long it was going to take to actually do image editing. That was a longer process than I was really realizing. kept wanting to get through it. It's like, I got a database to build, I got things to do. But, yeah. Using the right tools is definitely a big one. GIMP kind of saved my life. It's basically an open source version of Photoshop. PHP, obviously, and I had to learn Joomla and MVC architecture for Joomla, and had to figure out how to develop components. If you really get into it, there's a lot there. I mean, because they've got views and subviews and templates and forms. Yeah, so a lot of things that are kind of high level. I also learned to not be afraid of new programming languages. PHP was not a challenge at all for me to pick up. And everything's easier the second time. The first time I tried to build I tried to connect to the database and actually run a query. It took me probably 4 hours. And then the second time, third time, it was much faster. And I think overall, I learned a lot about the value of an hour. Just throwing in a couple hours every day into this project really allowed me to put the time forward and really get stuff done. And so that is my project. Thank you.
What questions do you have? Have you, sorry, someone else?
Julie.
Oh, go ahead, Julie.
Oh, I was just wondering, I know you said the previous site there were issues because it had been custom built. Do you think that'll be an issue? Like, is there a kind of a plan for once you're done with it for someone else to maintain it, or will you be responsible for that after this?
So the only thing that's really custom out of my site is the survey portion. That's just a module that's plugged in. So obviously I'd have to maintain that. But the hope is that somebody with a lot less technical knowledge, I hope, that's right, I'm going to have to document some things for his intern in order to make sure that he can actually kind of go in and upload images, upload blog posts. I mean, like a massive overhaul of the site, you probably want somebody who actually kind of understood Joomla, but I think day-to-day sort of maintenance, I don't think it would be much of an issue.
Have you gone out and done any research on the process of validating user feedback? And, is this survey mechanism and approach based around House bills or Senate bills, is that the way constituents think about it? Have you done any sort of kind of validation on kind of your overall approach?
I haven't done any research in that area, no. I mean, I do have experience in the area. With that in mind, I mean, that reminds me that I probably should have the ability for users to be able to vote specifically on issues rather than bills, because that's generally what happens from personal experience is that people will either get caught up on an issue and then some keyword will set them off in some bill somewhere, or the other side of the coin is that some special interest group will approach their kind of clientele and convince them that this bill is not in their best interest because it's not in the special interest group's best interest. And so in that context, they would be targeting a specific bill, and my system would work well. So.
Two questions. After they take this survey, have you thought about how to visualize that, or how to do those results in such a way that it's not overwhelming?
Yeah, I haven't really come up with a really great solution. My current idea is to just export the data. My feeling is that if I can, export the data into like an Excel file in such a way, the hope is that you'll be able to do whatever kind of analysis you'd ever want to do on that data.
And second, more of a comment, something to look into in the future. You heard of the Vote Smart API? So there's a group of, I think it was a grant one by a university somewhere. They put together an API that actually pulls up all that data you're pulling up and puts it in an easy way so you can just call it directly from your program. It's nothing you have to do right now by any means, but in the future, if you want to automate the process of importing in issues and bills and legislators, you could tap right into that Vote Smart API, which is free.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Something to look into in the future.
Yeah,
too.
I'm getting my stuff directly from the legislative website, but if there's an easier way to parse it, then maybe. I mean, the Utah legislature was looking at building their own API, but I haven't heard anything about it since I called them about it a year ago. So. But Vote Smart?
Vote Smart.
Okay.
Something cool, just for the future.
I'll look
Great
into
job.
it. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thanks, David. All right, on time. Look at that. Okay, looks like we have another little break. Let me see. At 2:30, we have another one in the room here. Yeah, because provider share. Does that make sense? I tried. Yeah, that's
I wanted to.
Yeah.